Hello, everyone. Welcome to the program Shagalinku. This is the Saturday's edition of the program, and this is welcoming you all. And thanks for joining us. My name is Ambassador Emmanuel Gabari, and it's always a pleasure when we come here to talk with you guys, knowing that you've got our backs and you're always there for us. Okay, today we'll be looking at the country. We're looking at countries generally and what they think about education. Okay, so we're asking this beautiful afternoon, or depending on where you're watching us from, we're asking that in terms of growth, when countries are measuring growth, should they look at education as part of what they need to plan so they could achieve more growth? Or should they just look at development generally? And when I say development, I'm also looking at infrastructure, economic values, and all that. So, which should countries prioritize more? Education and all that? Because sometimes in some countries' budgets, you find that it's really not too obvious that they really want to invest in all that. So, even when we bring it down to Africa, how is education taken as a priority in Africa's budget? Not just even for government alone, but generally, how are girls also being encouraged to go to school? How are women also empowered in a way that they remember that even when they get married, those who dropped out, maybe due to pregnancy and all that, how are they able to be encouraged to go back to school even after childbirth and all that? So these are many more we'll be looking at. And I've got my guests all the way from Norway. I have Mr. Dele Olawole. Um, He's an activist, a social commentator, and also the CEO founder of Nigerians United Against Corruption International. And he's based in Norway. Together, we'll be looking at some of these things. And I'm also going to be having another guest of ours join us all the way from London as soon as the network connects and all that. And for all of you watching right now, whether on YouTube, on Shagalinku TV, or on Facebook at Shagalinku TV, or on my personal page, Ambassador Emmanuel Gabari. The comment section is there. Please do drop your comments and let us know what you think about the topic of discussion. Like you always know, it's an unending discussion and it's a conversation. So what you know, do share with us, and what we know, we'll share with you as we go on the program. Let me bring my guest on and to tell us a little more about him and maybe something we missed out while we're doing the introduction. Hello, sir.
Hello. It's
Welcome to
nice
the
to be
program.
with
Good,
you today.
yeah, good to have you on the program. How are you doing,
Thank you.
sir?
Thank you. We are coping. We can't complain.
Okay. Yeah, we can't. We have to just leverage on what we have.
Yeah.
It's good to have you, Mr. Ladele. I'd like you to also tell us more about what you do. If there's anything we missed out during the introduction, I know you're a man of all round, but then just tell us a little more of who Mr. Ladele is.
Yeah, thank you very much. My producer, my everything today. Yeah, my name is Dele Olawole, as mentioned. I'm a trained electronic engineer. And I live in Norway with my family. I moved to Norway many years ago when Abacha was going crazy and killing people in Nigeria. So I managed to run the radio to manage to run the radio Kudira at that time. And since then I've been around doing a lot of stuff for Nigerians, for Norway, for the world, for the entire global community.
Mm,
So, and then at some point I discovered that okay, the issue of corruption in Nigeria is just becoming a bit alarming, kind of it deprives of a development. And I thought that okay, when you talk about corruption, when you hear the international community talking about corruption, they say Nigeria is corrupt, Nigeria is corrupt. But then it comes to me that wait a minute, the population of Nigeria is over 150 million. 150 million people can never be the same. They cannot be all that
true,
corrupt. So can
true.
we identify those Nigerians that are not corrupted or not corrupt? And that is why I started this. Nigerians United Against Corruption International. That is, the Nigerians that are not corrupt against corruption. So that at least they will know that, okay, all Nigerians are not corrupt. And it has been a kind of, we made a contribution. We've contributed to the image of Nigeria. We change the mentality. It's not about going to the street to fight. It's not about fighting with any government official, because they are our people. We went to school with them. But it's just about reorientation, about re-engineering the mindset of the people. What is your own perspective of corruption? What do you understand about it? So that is what we have been doing, is a kind of social re-engineering of the mind. And a lot of people are bought into it. We are so happy with what we see.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Ladele. And for our viewers, if you have questions for my guest, Mr. Ladele, please do drop them on the comment section. And as the program progresses, we'll be asking them, and he'll be responding to them. Okay, Mr. Dele, let me also ask this as we start. A lot of times, let's even start from Africa. A lot of times, we see that the girl child education, women empowerment, they are not really they're not really focused in a way that these people can, get access to education. So a young girl is seen by many parents as a leeway to escape poverty. So they barely talk about a girl child going to school. What do you think about when we talk about it? Because I will come back to you to also ask about education and development, but let's even start from the vulnerables. How do we begin to make the girl child in Africa more exposed to education? Because we can't talk about education holistically if we also don't talk about the sectors that are vulnerable and marginalized. What do you have to say about that?
Yeah, thank you. It boils down to our own understanding of education, actually. What is it? From my exposure and from what I have seen happening in the global community, especially in developed nations, I think that, okay, when you talk about education in Africa and when you talk about education in the Western community, they are not the same.
True.
I think we have this kind of misconcept, a kind of misunderstanding of what education should actually. And that is why we've not been able to make any progress so far. And that is why we have all this problem with women, with ladies, with boys, with girls, with every people that with all the people that you mentioned, because of our own definition, because of our own perspective of education, because about how we see it. Because education, when you talk about education, you can break it down so many areas. Are we talking about education within the four corners of a classroom or within a school? That is what we do in Africa. And that we were educated before. It was not like this, that, okay, everything has to be structured. So what you now have is a kind of structured education. And then you have a kind of syllabus that you have to follow. And then after the syllabus actually are not developing in Africa or in Nigeria.
True.
So most of the syllabi that you see are actually not suitable for our own educational development. And then it becomes a little bit, it makes things a little bit difficult for people that go to school to understand precisely what you are talking about. And that is why we come. We have to come part to part. So education, when you talk about education, it is a process. It is a kind of social process. And it should involve the environment. And that is the difference. In education in Africa and Nigeria, anywhere you find this, it completely disconnected from the environment. So we more or less learn in abstract, making it so difficult for us to understand what we're actually learning, or use it to further things, and make it difficult for people to come in and say, okay, I want to be part of it. And if you look at the data from UNDP or UNESCO, you discover that, okay, the number of children we have out of school continue to decrease every year since 1970. Why? Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. We're here, and messages are already coming in, and I'll be asking you to read some of them as soon as I put them on the screen. So let's even, I like the fact that you had to even distinguish between education in Africa and education in the Western world. So let's even come back to this. So between education and development, which should come top priority for countries? I know before the show, we were also trying to figure out a few things, and you were telling me that both of them go together. And I was also trying to let you know that, well, that's our mindset. There are people who will feel that development comes first for them. There are countries or presidents or even governors, if we decide to break it down to little things, there are governors who will tell you that flyovers, building roads are more important for them than even sending the citizens back to school. So for you, let's even break down why you think we need both education and development for every country to move to the next level.
Thank you very much. When we talk about development, what are we talking about? Like I just mentioned, when we talk about education, what are we talking about? Are we talking about development in the global community? Or are we talking about development within the nation, for example? And if we are talking about development within the nation, and then we have to look at it, are we talking about development when it comes to the public or at the early stage of life? So you have a lot of things mixed up in one that, okay, you can actually not, you can't actually take one away from the other. So when you talk about development, we have to look at two things. We have to look at the economic development, and then we have to look at the social development. And which one of these two comes first? Is it the social development or the economic development? Taking an example from Asia, for example, you discover that China did one thing. The first thing they did was to go into social development, whereby they reformed their culture and everything. And then after that one, they now go into economic development for their citizens. But even all those things that we are talking about, you still need education at the basic. The foundation of everything that we are talking about is education. Because if you are not properly educated about your environment, how are you going to use the mineral resources? How are you going to understand the human resources in that environment and use it for the development of the nation? So this comes with education that, okay, you have to actually understand your environment, the people, their capability, their quality and quantity of life. So when you measure all these things together, then you discover that, okay, things seem to become clearer, and that is why, okay, things are a little bit clumsy when it comes to Africa. We take one before the other. What we should have done is education before development, because education will lead to development. And that education that we are talking about actually is still part of development, if you understand what I mean. Because, okay, I have to train my daughter, I have more to train my child, I have to train my children this, teach them this, watch me doing things, give them my cultural belief, give them my cultural understanding of the environment, give them more information about the environment. So I think that is one of the things that the Scandinavian countries, that is one of the things that they are doing, which other countries are not doing. All the kindergarten in this society, for example, you don't have the children in the classroom or anywhere. You have them outside. Whether it is raining, whether it is sunny, whether it is anything, they are outside. And what do? They play with sand, they play with anything, they play with just everything, developing by touching, by feeling, by all this kind of thing. So you can't take one away from the other. In the process of developing, you are educating, you are understanding your environment, and then you are building. Actually, you are projecting towards the future. You are projecting towards economic development, and then projecting towards social development. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So I'll read a few messages here, so you could respond to them. This one is from Al Hassan Issa, and it says, "Great job, well done. Education is key to development. Without without education, nothing works." That's from Al Hassan. Any contribution to that?
Yeah, I think it made a valid point there. Like I just mentioned, that without education, there is no development. But then we are talking not about the education within the four corner of the
Four walls of the school. Yeah.
school. So we are not talking about schooling at all. We are talking about
Yeah.
what you learn from your mother, what you learn from your father, what you learn at home, what you learn from your friends, what you learn from the environment. How much do you understand about the environment, for example? That is basic education. Many Nigerians, when they see a snake, they run away from the snake because they think all snakes are poisonous. And yet there are still some that they can play with. But if they have been educated, or if they know that okay, you can play with this one, you can actually touch it in the head, you can actually use it as a pet, that is education. Nothing more, Then we can now go into all these other physics, chemistry, biology, and so stuff. That is structured.
Yeah. I doubt if anyone wants to even dare play with a snake, whether not poisonous or not. Okay. I'll take another message from this other end. This one is from Amebayo. It says, growth and development work hand in hand. We just need to balance the two in order not to regret. They are good topic of discussion. Keep it up. This is from Amebayo. And then if you can see this one, Mr. Dele, you can just help us read this one and then you respond to it.
It's a little bit, so let me see if I can actually get you on my page on Facebook.
Okay.
Because I'm using a phone, so that one is so
So tiny, right?
It's so tiny that
okay. Let me read it from here while you do that. Then you can respond. This is from Matthias Idris. It says, we must understand that education and development go hand in hand. The role of education in a country's development is huge. Some disadvantages of education is some advantages of education is it boosts economic growth. Education is an important investment in a country, but these days, school students are restricted only to academics. We also need to ensure that school education equips children with necessary life skills. Yeah, Mr. Dele, you talked about something when you were first talking. You say our schools are equipped in a way that so people just cram to pass exam, and they don't imbibe the other cultures of education. Because aside even when we even talk about the four walls of education, of schools, like you keep saying, some people just go through the school and they don't let the school also go through them. They just go read, pass exam, and then other things, extracurriculum activities they are supposed to have learned in school, they are also not doing that. So take us through what Matthias said about children are not equipped with life skills. And then our courses are also terrible these days. So African universities or schools are not wired or training students to come out with the basic, prerequisites of schools. We still have courses that have been modern for over 10, 15 years and all that. And then they come out, they hardly find jobs. So what would you like to say about this, sir?
Yeah, I've been looking at that issue. It's actually I've been troubling for a very long time. It's such that okay, you can't actually solve one problem, neglecting the other. All these things are intertwined. For example, when you look at what you just said, the courses some people did and all sorts of things, cramming, and then you have to look at certain things, which I've discussed with them in Nigeria, with the government at the government level under OBJ. How many people are actually living in Nigeria? What is the population of Nigeria? Have we been able to break down our educational system, for example, to find out how many people actually are doing physics, how many are doing chemistry, how many are doing history, how many are doing biology and all sorts of things like that? And if we're able to break this thing down, are people that did chemistry, are they more employable than people that did mathematics, for example, or people that did history? Okay, if people in the sciences are more employed, I mean, they are more employed in the community, society, than people that did art, which means it's time for Nigeria to change the art education a little bit, to tweak it a little bit, so that people move towards science. If you understand, I mean, I think you understand what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
But we don't have this data, we don't have the statistic, we don't have anything. We just push people through school, and people don't, like mentioned, they don't go through school. The school pay to go through them, they just go through school. So we just cram, we cram. And that is when you see Nigerians that who study abroad and Nigerians who study in Nigeria, you see the difference. Because okay, abroad,
Yeah.
you are empowered not to. I mean, I remember when I was in school in Nigeria, any exam where the teacher put comma, I must put comma. When I have to answer the question, where he put dot, I have to put the dot. Otherwise, I failed that exam. I can't go outside that course. I'm such a guy that okay, I'm so curious. I was born curious. I want to go outside. You tell me one thing in class, I'm reading a encyclopedia, I'm reading all sorts of things like that. And I come to the class, I made that one as an example, I failed because my teacher don't really understand where I was coming from or where I was. So, and that is it. That is the key there. Education should project you to be curious, not limit you. In Africa, in Nigeria, where education limits us, we can't go further down what the syllabus say or what is inside the curriculum. So the skill that guy is talking about, who is going to give you the skill? The teacher doesn't have the skill. The syllabus does not include that skill acquisition in it. So, which means you have to go outside yourself. Now you are being, you now have the basic knowledge. Let me give you an example. I did electronics in Nigeria. I did electronics, and then there's a particular semiconductor that we always talk about, antimony. We cram everything about antimony. What is antimony? Until I went out to find out that antimony is this woman's tiro, this woman eyelashes, the local eyelashes. I've been in Africa for ages. I never, if you told me that, okay, tiro is a semiconductor, I understand what you are saying immediately. But antimony, who is this antimony? So anytime I finish school, I want to go to Russia to study antimony. And that is why many of us just fly away, because that thing is completely irrelevant, completely strange to our language. We don't understand what they're talking about. So, which means when you talk about education, when you talk about skill, and then you have to bring in language of teaching. You want to study in Norway, you have to study you want to study in Norway, you have to understand the language. You have to study in France, you have to understand the language. In Russia, you have to understand the language. And even though most of these things are English, you have some books written in English and some other things. But when I tell you something in your mother's language, you have a better understanding. You can relate to it. You can relate to it. So that is the way it is. We can't just flip one over the other. We need the statistic to buttress whatever we are saying, to change the curriculum. And then the curriculum has to be designed, developed in Nigeria, not from UNESCO, because everything we've been using all this year was given to us by UNESCO. And we are being trained just to be repairers, just to be consumers, not thinkers.
Wow, thank you very much. In case you just joined us, the program is Shagalinku. This is the Saturday's edition of the program, and I'm here with my guest all the way from Norway. His name is Mr. Dele Olawole, and he's a social analyst and also an engineer, like you heard. Keep your comments coming. We're looking at education and development, which should be more like a top priority for countries. What should we be looking at? I'm particular about the girl child education because every time we talk about education, basically, we also don't phantom putting the girl child, especially in the African context where a lot of girl child or a lot of girls, young girls, are modeled or trained or packaged in a way for marriage. Many homes would rather, if you put a boy child and a girl child in a home and say, bring out one that will benefit from education, whether free or paid for, tendency is that many families will first put out their boy child as against the girl child. So that's why we're even talking with Mr. Dele to tell us more what we can do to also push out the girl child, and also encourage women who maybe got married or got pregnant along the way, and then they're into the family and all that. How can they also come out again, dust their intelligence, and go back to school even while married? We should begin to fund things like Mr. Dele said. It's not just education, is not just about the four walls of schools, but other things. I'll come back to Mr. Dele now, and let me ask a few more questions. Let me even come back to the Kudirat radio. How were you able to surmount that pressure? Because I heard a lot about that from my grannies and my parents, where they talked earnestly about all that, looking at, it was a military junta as well. So there wasn't as much freedom of speech or freedom of expression as it should be in a democratic setting. And then a whole lot of things happened. Journalists were also locked up, jailed, and all that. So how were you able to pull through? Because this is a part of you that a lot of people don't know of, or you don't also like talking about. But then take us through all that, and how was it like for you? The trauma, the challenges, the having to sacrifice, and all that. Please take us through it.
Yeah, thank you, thank you, thank you. It was an experience, a very nice one, and a sacrifice to the nation. I always believe in national development, and then it has always been my passion. And then when it comes to activism, I've been part of it since the 70s. So I've always been pro development, pro progress, pro this, pro that, which I think pushed me to all this kind of a thing. And I went through all the stages of engineering classes. So I went to technical school, the polytechnic, and all sorts of things. So it was when I was in the technical school that I developed my first transmitter, radio transmitter, many years ago. That was a shortwave, and then I was broadcasting in Oshogbo, and I say, okay, this is radio, this is Dele Radio, and that is how when you go to my page, you see Dele Radio there. Many people don't actually know my name; they only know me to be Dele Radio. So then after that one, I did an exhibition at Radio OYO, that is Oyo State Radio Broadcasting. And then I got a job there. I worked there for many years. So from there, many people get to know me. And when this issue of Abacha came on, that okay, all the radio stations are being monitored, and then Abacha have to send a script, no freedom of speech, nothing whatsoever. And then the opposition were there, the only one they used to have one FM radio that was a mobile radio station at that time. But then it became a little bit difficult for them to actually do broadcasting in Nigeria, to run that kind of a thing, the Nadeco, And then they were looking for somebody that, okay, can actually do this thing for them. And then where can they do it? And then Norway offered to assist. That, okay, they will assist them, but then the station must be manned by their own people, by their own men. So then my friend, late Dio Johnson, got in touch with me if I can do this. So through General Yannick and all sorts of, a lot of connections were involved. So I was smuggled out of Nigeria through the normal route, And then I just ended up in Norway. Oh, wow. So, okay, that's good. So, and then everything was ready. We had the house, and then the car was there, the studio was there. And then we run the station from Norway. We send the signal through an ISD line. We send the signal to the UK, from UK to South Africa, from South Africa to Nigeria. So Abacha they were just running here and there, looking for where we were broadcasting. It was an experience. It was a very nice one. Very proud, that okay, you are doing something positive for your nation. So, and then I don't always want to talk about it, but people that know me, they want to interview, they want to talk, they want to, oh, you are one of our great men. Why are you not in Nigeria now? All those people that did not do as much as you did, they are now president, they are now governor, they are come home. No, I did not join because I want to prey on the people. I just want to liberate them.
Thank you very much. Okay, we're still on, and this is the Saturday's edition of Shagalinku TV. My name still is Ambassador Emmanuel Gabari, and I have my guest here all the way from Norway, Mr. Dele Olawole. He's the CEO, founder of Nigerians United Against Corruption International, in Norway. He's been taking us through his journey and all that. Okay, Mr. Dele, let's come back again and ask a few questions as we plan to wrap up soon. So what's the way forward for us? I like us to talk to parents. I'm happy you're a parent and you're a father, because like I always say on the show, it's not every time we have to wait for the government to do things for us. Even when the government will do everything possible, you still will find parents or guardians who will go against the laws and all that. As we wrap up for education, looking at development, they say charity begins at home. What would be your word of advice to parents? Because we still live in a patriarchal world. We still live where people use toxic masculinity. We still live in a world where even fathers, even mothers are the one promoting gender-based violence and teaching young boys from small that whatever they do, they can get away with it because they are boys. So you find a 7-year-old boy will sit with his father in the parlor, and you find his elder sister of like 12 years would be in the kitchen with the mother cooking. And the father wouldn't see anything wrong with it. The mother won't even see anything wrong with it and say, come to the kitchen and join your senior sister. Put your hands together, let's cook. Even when they try to correct, the mother will say, now the man of the house be this one. He not supposed to do anything. Or your daddy sit down for parlor with Oga and all that. So how do we begin to change the mindset of boys and girls from the home front to also value education? Because we don't know the truth who the next female president will be. So
Yeah.
mothers and fathers are always guilty of this, and they're like, say you go marry, you go marry. As if your daughter marries, she stops being your daughter. Please take us through what the home front should do.
Yeah, thank you very much. It's a very important issue that you raised here. Like at the beginning of this session, I mentioned that the first thing China did was to go through social reformation. All these things that you mentioned fall under the social reformation and the cultural, cultural reformation fall under cultural reformation. So it falls under cultural identity and cultural stuff, Without we going back to tweak our culture, every other things will just be, we will be underdeveloped for a very long time. We just have to tweak that cultural belief, cultural issues. What about if all you have are women, are ladies, are baby girls? You will not train them, you will not provide them any education. What will you do? So what is going to happen to you in future? What is the future of those girls going to be? My advice to parents: one, you have to start ditching, throw away all those your cultural belief that boys are better than girls. You don't know which one is better. You don't know which one is going to. So give everybody equal opportunity. We are all given equal opportunity to exist in this world, to exist in this life, to breathe the air, to drink the water, to do everything. So give your children equal opportunity. Don't say one is a girl, the other one is a boy. And then don't abuse them by saying, this is the way you were brought up. The way you were brought up in 1960 is not the way children should be brought up in the 21st century. You are actually demoralizing. You are killing that child. You are such a child will be underdeveloped forever. So you have to free your mind. You have to, and there is nothing. You have the internet today. You have your mobile phone. Instead of showing beautiful pictures on social media, use it to educate yourself a little bit. Learn, understand what is happening in other culture. How are ladies, how are children, how are baby girls being brought up in Norway, for example? How are they doing it? If you do a search on Google, you will get the information. And Google is good these days, actually. You can translate it to Yoruba if you cannot speak. And if you have any problem, ask. People like us, we will educate you, we will provide you the necessary information. And don't wait until, okay, your children get to school. When you put that boy in the parlor, according to my presenter, when you put that boy in the parlor, is under-educated, is underdeveloped. That boy should be learning basic concept of cooking with a modern education. I did that one, and then I'm a good cooker today. I cook everything. I don't eat outside. So let them learn. It's part of the schooling. It's part of the education that we are talking about. Let your child be visible. Don't say, okay, one is a girl, she cannot do this. That is a boy, that's what he can do, or he cannot do this. Give them equal opportunity. They will rise. Then they will be happy. They will be grateful to you for doing so. Thank you. Hello.
We're trying to get back. Okay. Thank you very much. Sorry, there was a short break there. Thank you very
Yeah, yeah.
much, Mr. Ladele. We're still on. I'll ask you one or two more questions before we wrap up. And I like the fact you mentioned the need for us to do all that. Okay, so let's come now to the society. What's the role of the society in all this? I'm sometimes worried about what we churn out as films, as social ways of expressions and all that, where we still find, in our films, there's always women are always being relinquished to the background, and then mothers mothers suffer a lot of gender-based violence, and they want to also pass it to their daughters. So I like the fact what you said, that it's how it's been done. So parents tell children this is how it's been done. So it's done in 1960, and you want, this is modern technology and all that. So I really like that part. So how do we also begin to break that down for mothers to also build the mindset of their daughters? Because you find a lot of homes where kids suffer gender-based violence, females particularly suffer gender-based violence, and the mothers tell them, just like you will say that the fathers also say, the mothers will say, say na like this your papa they do me, they beat me, and I stay with them because of una wey be my children. And we keep fueling these things, and we've seen instances where these kids end up either dying because when they come back to the parents will say, no, nobody has been divorced in our home. When I marry you out to your husband, it's for better, for worse, till death do you part, and all that. So where do we begin to also encourage mothers to help their children, whether male or female, when they are in very turbulent marriages, to also speak out? Because I like the fact where you talked about education being a holistic thing. So education is not just in the four walls of the school, but how we're also able to use social activities to bridge that gap. So talk to us about that as we wrap up, sir.
Thank you very much. We can't. You mentioned the society, and when you talk about the society, we are now talking about a larger group.
Yeah.
And like I've always said, like from Norwegian perspective, charity begins at home. Whatever I do here affects my neighbor. And whatever my neighbor does in his house affects me. So we have a kind of collective mentality of how this community should operate. So we go out, we operate, and then from that small nucleus community, we go to the larger community. And then from that larger community, it goes to the society. So everything we do starts at home. Everything we want to do, the society we want to build, because you cannot build anyone in isolation. I can be the most successful, the most beautiful, the most anything in my own small world, and then the society, is like, okay, one poor man in a village, among 1,000 people. It's always one rich man among 1,000 people, poor people. It's always a poor guy. So that is it. But in this particular thing that you mention is very important. When it comes to society, then the government must come in. You need that political power to push this cultural reformation that we are talking about. And that is why I will continue to converse to say that, okay, Nigeria must have a Ministry of Home Affairs or if they call it Ministry of Families or anything. They must have that ministry whereby everything now has to be structured. Policy. What do we want? How do we want family to behave? When a child is beaten at home, can that child report to the police? I have a case, there was a woman that was beaten by her husband and then went to the police station. The inspector general, or not the inspector general, the DCP or DPO, call him. So what do you want us to do now? I did beat my wife too. So what do you
want? Can you imagine?
So you want make we go arrest your husband?
When me man they beat my own for house, yeah. I'm sure the woman will be surprised.
So that is it, But if there's a policy behind it, if she goes to the police, if the case is filed, and then that man is arrested or that man is separated, then we begin to build the society. Until we have this political will, this political power behind it, nothing can happen. And then, which means those politicians, they need to be retrained too. I can invite many of them here, I can bring them here to come and see how things function. I can sit them down, educate them so that they can be able to implement this kind of policy. Because most of this that we are talking is alien to them. Many of them are beating their wife too. They are abusing their children. So how can they implement any policy? Somebody that hasn't got a toilet in his house, you give him money to go and build public toilet. He just be constructing Shagalinku and everything. I'll buy newspaper and put it somewhere and say, okay, newspaper and use it to tamper.
True.
So we need a complete reorientation, re-engineering of our mindset, nothing more, from the bottom to the top. Especially those people who are now in control of the society. You need to tweak, to twist, to do everything to their brain so that they can do what is useful, what can lead to development of that nation. And all this thing about university education, everything that people are caring about, they should just forget it for now. Train, charity begins at home.
Yeah, thank you very much. Okay, it's been. We want to give out anybody you want to give your greetings or shout out to. You have 30 seconds to do that so that we can wrap up now, sir.
Yeah. Just give my shout to all the Nigerian youth. You have to empower yourself. You have to develop yourself. You have to you have to organize yourself, properly organize yourself. And if you are going on SAR or any protest next time, try to make sure that, okay, you have somebody who is leading, not headless protest, so that, okay, you can know and then know your people, know those people involved, so that at the end of the day, such a protest is not hijacked. I've been there for ages. Thank you very much.
Really appreciate. Okay, we're wrapping up now, and I really must thank our guests who's been here. Thank you very much for finding time to join us, and thanks to everyone who also watched. I got this. That's from Karim Jackson, and he says, "Hello, gentlemen. Thank you very much, Karim, for joining us. And to everyone who joined, we also like to say thank you." Okay, this is the size of the program for today. I want to thank our guests. I want to thank everyone who joined us. Let's do it again on Tuesday, God willing, Tuesday, 2 p.m., God willing. And we'll be here with a fresh edition of the program with another guest. And thanks to Mr. Dele Olawole, the CEO and founder of Nigerian United Against Corruption International, all the way from Norway, as he joined us today to talk about education and development, which is more important, or which should be any country's top priority. It's been a learning process. We learned a lot from him and all the messages that came into. Thank you all for joining us. And from all of us here, on Shagalinku TV. We wish you all a beautiful, beautiful Saturday and enjoy the rest of the weekend. God bless you all and bye bye.